What's going on, everybody? It's Q from Retro Q Game, and I have some great news coming, positive news, hopeful news when it comes to retro games and licensed retro games. Now, this doesn't specifically really just stick with licensed retro games because there are a couple of licensed, more modern games too that it still applies to, but the majority are retro stuff. Now, when I talk about licensed games, what do I mean? Well, I'm not talking about standard third-party license games. For example, I don't know, you have a company licensing something that, let's say, Konami owns the IP for. A perfect example of this would be on the upcoming Mega Drive Mini. Sega have licensed Castlevania Bloodlines from Konami. Of course, Konami owns the Castlevania IP, but we're not looking at that specifically because a long time ago, and even a couple of modern examples, are of when companies make licensed games from other media, from maybe a cartoon, a comic, a film, a TV show, whatever it is. Some great examples of this are when Konami made arcade games, excellent arcade games at that, for Aliens, X-Men, and The Simpsons. Capcom have also done stuff like that too, with the likes of The Punisher and Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. Now, unfortunately, with games like this, licensing agreements are done for a finite series of time. So eventually, these agreements run out. The games are either no longer physically manufactured or are no longer available for digital distribution. Hell, this is one of the main reasons why I will adamantly protest against digital distribution and the only digital future, as they say. Now, when it comes to stuff like this, there are multiple different things that can happen. A game can just run out, the license can run out, it's removed from sale, it's never physically produced again, and then that's it, it's gone for good. And only the people who have already purchased a copy of it can ever play it. A perfect example of this is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World on the Xbox 360 and the PS3. That game was only licensed for a short period of time, and once the license ran out, no one redid it. It was pulled from sale, and now only people who have already paid for it can ever download and play it again. There are other examples too of games coming back periodically and having their licenses redone. In the early days of the Xbox 360, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles was licensed again by Konami and released on the Xbox Live Arcade. Later on in the same console's lifespan, they did the same thing again with The Simpsons and X-Men. Now, of course, these licenses have subsequently run up again and been removed from sale, but it gave people a chance to get a modern digital version of it. But sometimes it's not even down to just the game's IP being licensed and that running out. Two more notable examples recently, because they both have different outcomes, are both Grand Theft Auto 4 and Alan Wake. Just recently, Grand Theft Auto 4 hit its 10th anniversary, and there was a patch on all three platforms, the Xbox 360, the PS3, and the PC version, to replace the licensed music, or at least certain parts of licensed music. And that was because the music, when the contracts were originally done, were only licensed for 10 years. So they didn't renegotiate those licenses. What they did is replace the music with something else. Maybe it's something they do have licenses to, or something that they don't need royalties for. But this was handled a little bit differently when it comes to Alan Wake, because the musical licenses in Alan Wake ran out for certain songs. The game was pulled from digital distribution, but Microsoft stepped in and renegotiated those licenses, and lo and behold, the game came back out on Steam for digital purchase. The same with Xbox One and Xbox 360. So you can see you do get happy endings and all from the likes of some of these cases. But many of us have always wondered and been afraid about certain games from the past, ones that we never thought we'd ever see again in any way, shape or form, at least officially. But over the last couple of days, that's basically all changed. And now, the future for retro games and licensed retro games looks so bright, I gotta wear shades. Because not only did we have Capcom a few days ago announce the Capcom Home Arcade, which now has the first properly licensed official port of Aliens vs Predator, but no, we've gone a little bit further and we have taken those extra steps. Because today, Sega have announced the second batch of games on the Mega Drive Mini. They've announced games number 11 through 20, two of which are extremely high profile licensed games. These games, of course, are Castle of Illusion and World of Illusion, games that prominently feature Mickey Mouse and to an extent Donald Duck. So naturally, those games have to be properly licensed. Now, usually with the market of a lot of this stuff, you would always think, or at least my big fear and big worry, was that companies wouldn't deem this necessary. It's like, well, we can't be bothered. Companies won't want to pay, I don't know, 100,000 for a license to redistribute this game because they don't think they'll sell that much. Or, we own this IP, it's not worth our time to do it for less than 10 billion. You know how the House of Mouse is, so. Both companies have to be willing to compromise. Both companies have to be willing to go through the effort to sit down and hammer this out somehow. And a lot of the time I was just worried that one or both or all parties involved just couldn't be bothered. But it looks like that's no longer the case. We're seeing more and more licensed games being revived in whatever way, shape and form. Be it sold individually or part of a collection or even part of this weird little plug and play console stuff. And that, boys, is very, very promising because some of these licensed games from back in the day are fantastic. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Arcade, I don't even need to see how great it was. The same with X-Men, The Simpsons, Aliens, Aliens vs Predator. The list goes on. There are so many of these games that can have their licenses redone and not be lost in time like tears in the rain. But anyway, I don't know, I'm happy, I'm psyched about it. I can't wait to see what other retro games we see, licensed retro games, make a comeback over the next few years in whatever way, shape and form. It's going to be good, it's going to be hype, and I have finally got something positive and hopeful to look forward to when it comes to futuristic retro gaming, as weird as that sounds. Anyway, let me know in the comments section below, are you hyped or happy or whatever that these companies are actually doing these licenses again? Does it affect you? Will you be buying any of the products that have these games in them? And how do you feel about any specific game that I've listed, or any specific licensed game that has had these kind of problems? Let me know all that good stuff in the comments section below. Hit the appropriate button to let me know how I did on the video, and while you're at it, why not head on over and hit the subscribe button and even ring the little notification bell. Granted, getting a notification from YouTube in current year about a new video upload or a live stream or whatever is a whole other story. But hey, at least you can say you tried, am I right? As always, thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the rest of the videos in my channel.